Take a look at Apple's lineup in the spring of 2025. Buy a new MacBook Air in midnight, then an iPhone 15 Pro in blue titanium and maybe an M1 iMac in bright orange. Something doesn't quite add up. Tech bloggers and designers are increasingly asking, what's happening with color at Apple? These aren't just new shades. It feels like a systemic shift is brewing. This is more than minor variations. Recent releases show a return to color diversity, but not at all like the era of the rainbow iMac G3s. The eras of monolithic unification, whether the utilitarian beige of early Macs or the strict reign of white and silver aluminum, seem definitively gone. Now, space gray on one device barely resembles space gray on another. Silver has different sheens. Pro lines get dark, almost black options that didn't exist before. At first glance, you might blame production complexities or different materials, but look closer and something feels off. Could the company obsessed with the details simply have lost control of its palette? Or is there a non-obvious logic hidden within this chaos? It seems Apple's color now works less for creating a unified image and more for micro-targeting and segmentation. Almost like different uniforms for different teams within the same corporation. It's like the Apple Watch personalization strategy, but scaled across the entire ecosystem, creating a new fragmented reality. But here's what's strange. Apple continues to position its ecosystem as seamless and harmonious. How does this ideology align with the visual dissonance when your new midnight MacBook doesn't match your old space gray monitor? Why has Apple allowed this color cacophony right now? Is it a side effect of Jony Ive's design dictatorship ending? A deliberate, albeit confusing strategy for different markets? Or simply a concession to operational reality and the complexities of manufacturing with recycled materials? The last time Apple played so boldly with color was during the iMac G3 era, and it saved the company. Then came a long era of controlled minimalism. The current situation isn't just an aesthetic choice, it's a potential signal of a shift in Apple's design philosophy, about how the company sees itself and its connection with you in the future. Welcome to the era of Apple's color chaos, but perhaps it's chaos by design. To understand how we got here and what this chaos might mean, we need to decode Apple's entire color code, starting from the very beginning. Early Apple computers, starting with the Apple II in 1977, were predominantly beige. Pragmatism ruled plastic properties, technology, cost. Computers back then were tools devoid of desire, like office copiers. Color wasn't just background noise, it symbolized the technological puritanism of the era. Apple was born in the beige purgatory of early computing, but even then, embers of dissatisfaction with the status quo smoldered. The 1984 Macintosh, a special beige PMS 453, not just cosmetic, the first tactical jab, an attempt to visually demarcate the revolution from the routine. Project Snow White in 1982 with Hartmut Esslinger, an attempt to create a visual uniform. It was the shift from overalls to a designer's suit. The first conscious step towards using aesthetics as a strategic weapon to build a global brand you wouldn't just use, but desire. Esslinger despised putty beige. Key elements included zero draft enclosures, minimal texture, and thin lines. The compromise color fog for the Apple IIc instead of the desired white. Then the move to the lighter platinum gray in 1986 to 87. Apple began encoding its brand through design. Not a revolution, but a calibration of aim. The seeds were sown, though the momentum faded after Jobs' departure. By the mid-90s, Apple was a Titanic sailing towards an iceberg of indifference.
Apple is executing wonderfully on many of the wrong things.
Jobs returned, found Ive, abolished the rainbow logo, not just rebranding, but symbolically burning bridges, necessary before a daring assault on the territory of emotion. The iMac G3 in 1998. An explosion of color and form in the gray PC landscape. It was a Trojan horse carrying fun and style into the bastion of utilitarian tech. A rescue strategy hitting your emotions directly. Color became a battering ram against blandness. First, Bondi Blue, inspired by sea glass. Then a cascade of fruit colors in 1999. Blueberry, grape, tangerine, lime, strawberry. The slogan, chic, not geek. A commercial triumph saving Apple. Apple cracked the code of emotional marketing through color. It changed the industry and your fundamental expectations of tech design. The switch from monochrome to Technicolor was complete. A sharp pivot with the iPod in 2001, resetting the palette to white and steel, an act of aesthetic purism, washing away the G3's exuberance. Instead of color chaos, the discipline of a single symbol, white became the code of belonging to the iPod tribe, a tool of social segregation through design. Simplicity as a cult. Apple masterfully turned the absence of color into a powerful brand identifier. White became the uniform of the digital revolution, paving the way for the aesthetic dictatorship of minimalism. Clear division from 2001, metal for pros, white plastic for the masses. The influence of Dieter Rams, simplicity, clean lines. But minimalism, pushed to the extreme, began to devour itself. Aesthetic purity demanded sacrifices on the altar of usability. The inevitable civil war within minimalism began, form versus function. Removing ports became an elegant tax paid by you. The aesthetic dogma hit a wall of practicality. Tension peaked. The system required a new paradigm, acknowledging your growing frustration. Okay, so we've seen Apple's minimalism peak and start raising questions. While Apple was figuring out its next move, the design world didn't stand still, especially now with AI emerging. And since we paused, let me switch to ad break mode for a second. But I promise it's useful for you designers. If you want to not just follow trends, but shape them, especially in the application of AI in design, check out my LinkedIn. Under the brand Sculpt, I share insights and case studies almost daily. At Sculpt, we work with diverse clients, from startups and freelancers to corporations, and see firsthand how AI is truly changing the game. No fluff, just practical working approaches. Want to stay ahead? Subscribe. The link, as always, is in the description. And now, back to Apple and their attempts to find color again, escaping the grip of their own minimalism. iPhone 5C in 2013. An attempt to bring back color via an unapologetically plastic body. A clumsy maneuver for segmentation. The attempt to democratize color failed because Apple underestimated the power of its own premium myth, which it had built in your mind. Champagne in a plastic cup. Examples include the 5 bright colors, the plastic feel, the $100 lower price point, mixed reception, but success in attracting Android switchers. Apple learned an expensive lesson. Context is everything. Color and material must work in synergy with the brand, not against it. iPhone XR in 2018 and subsequent standard models, bright colors but with premium materials. Apple mastered the divide and conquer tactic with color, offering you the illusion of choice while clearly positioning the Pro line as more premium. Examples include the success of the XR, its attractive price, and the retention of premium materials. Color became a surgically precise tool for managing the portfolio and your choices. M1 iMac in 2021, a triumphant return of bright colors to desktops. Color as therapy in the post-pandemic world, and a response to integrating tech into home coziness, as if Apple threw open the curtains after a long gray winter. Examples include the 7 bright colors, the thin M1 design, the focus on joy, and design controversies. A new function for color, psycho-emotional and environmental. A step towards post-minimalism or just another market maneuver? Here, Apple created the perfect system to monetize your desire to be unique. A neutral canvas, plus an endless conveyor belt of straps and faces. Color transformed into an engine for continuous accessory consumption, the watch as an identity constructor. Ive left, hanky left, no head of industrial design. The team reports to the COO. The signal: is design now subordinate to logistics and manufacturing efficiency? Perhaps the era of pure visionaries is over, yielding to pragmatism. The price you pay, a potential loss of magic. Apple's current colors, chaos for you, different lines, different colors. Shades of space gray and silver vary. Noticed? How can you build a harmonious setup? This lack of uniformity complicates life if you aim for a unified style. It undermines the myth of simplicity. Apple's color strategy now resembles quantum physics. The state depends on where and when you observe it. The complexity of the lineup, materials, segmentation, all make the old simplicity impossible or unprofitable. This inconsistency is the new reality, a symptom of deeper changes within Apple itself. Personalization will continue. Controlled customization, sustainability, a new marketing imperative influencing the palette. Vision Pro. color as a navigation tool in a new reality where clarity trumps expression. So we've navigated the labyrinth of Apple's color strategy, a journey that shaped not only products, but also your desires. From the beige purgatory to the Trojan horse iMac G3. From the aesthetic counter-reformation of the iPod to minimalism's civil war, through the humbling lesson of the 5C to today's quantum uncertainty of the palette. Apple uses color not as paint, but as a tuning fork to adjust your perception, as a tool of control over the market and identity. The company's internal battles are broadcast in the palette of products you choose. Apple's relationship with color is a relentless dance between art, commerce, and technology. Palettes change, but the goal remains: to make you desire. What will be the next shade in this infinite spectrum? Apple will continue writing this story, and you will continue buying it. And if you want to understand even deeper how Apple manipulates not just color, but the very texture and shape of interfaces to influence our perception, definitely watch my previous video, Apple Design Welcome Back Skeuomorphism. Understanding the history of skeuomorphism's rise and fall and flat design will give you a completely different perspective on how and why Apple chooses its colors today. These are two parts of one larger story about the soul of Apple design. Click here or find the link in the description. Thanks for watching.